Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to World of Perspective Radio on Blog Talk Radio. My name is Elizabeth Alron and I am your host. If you look up the words used to name this show, you will find among many others a picture or view of something for the word perspective, a realm or domain or sphere of human activity or interest for the word world. And if you look up the word human, you find sympathetic, humane. When you put the elements together, to me, it says that a world of perspective is a sympathetic and humane view of the things that matter. When you join me, you'll always find the show taking a perspective of you that will potentially be inspiring, helpful, or illuminating. Does it mean you need to take it on as your own? Hardly. If it provides you fuel to continue going in the direction you've been going, great. If it gives you a new course of action to consider, also great. All I am desiring to do is give you some food for thought. The call-in number for the show is 347-324-5745. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to spending time with you.
In my experience, as a human being and with coaching clients, that, that there's a way of being in relationships, how we view relationships, how we view people.
So basically how we go in and hang ourselves up and never talk to the person the whole night, or the way that we do talk to the person the whole night.
The way we do talk to the person, and the way we view them, are we stingy? And when I say stingy, I don't mean necessarily financially stingy. Are we emotionally stingy? If we see something that somebody does that we think is great, first of all, do we allow ourselves to see the greatness in people? That at its most basic core. I know
Actually, let me just interject because a question just occurred to me. This part of me. There are people that would somehow say that it was legitimate and okay to hold back praise as sort of a manipulative ploy, or somehow you're not supposed to let someone know how you feel. So what do you say to all of that?
My knee-jerk reaction would be to get a life. No, I mean, seriously.
What do you really think, Dave?
No, I mean, look, the whole thing for me, and again, I'm coming off what 2008 was, and I've said this to everyone, 2008 was by far the greatest year I've ever had, greatest year of my life. And one of the reasons, I think, is that I went from being somebody who was liked to acknowledge people because I like to make them happy and I like to make them smile, and there was also a chance that they would give some back my way, to being overtly grateful in a more spiritual sense.
Okay.
And I think that...
And what do you think that just, I mean, that's a little off track here, but what do you think that provided for you?
I think what that provided for me was less of a need to get justified is not the word, validated is the word I'm looking for. I think it lessened a need that I had in years past to be validated by human beings, to be validated by people. Oh, I'm only good if you tell me to, or won't you give me some acknowledgement or some praise so that I see something good about myself. And getting back to the thing about being generous, is that the more that I could see value in myself, the more I could see it in other people.
Well, and I would think that from that coaching perspective, you would be able to provide more because of that perspective.
Absolutely.
That wonderful word that I love so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Probably gave you more freedom to be able to see how things could be a different way for people.
Without question. I mean, one of the other things that I do that's been a massive contribution to me is that I actually, besides, having a band that I sing with and having my coaching practice, I also work about 25 hours a week at Starbucks. And that's been huge, not only because, frankly, they have wonderful health benefits, but it gives me an opportunity to practice being great with people in the face of that they don't always want to be great.
So when you and I were speaking, you told me like a little secret for guys. Remember when we were talking about that?
Little secret for guys.
If they really wanted to make an impression with a woman?
In one case, there's a very specific kind of woman that I have what I call the magic question. And again,
I believe that was it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's not. And again, it's also not done from wanting to manipulate. It's actually done from a commitment of wanting to make somebody feel known and honored. And the magic question is that, as you know, I don't know if you have this experience when you go into your Starbucks, but we put labels on the cups, and so we ask people's names. And if a woman comes up and I ask her name and she says her name is Sarah, the magic question is H or no H. I've seen it's almost 100% that if a woman named Sarah comes up, blah 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 blah, tall, vanilla, whatever. Okay, Sarah, H or no H, no matter what kind of day she's been having, all of a sudden someone cares. And almost every woman named Sarah goes, H or no H. But the basic feeling is, wow, somebody cares. And it could sound trivial, but I got to tell you, it makes a difference. And this is one of the things in terms of creating relationships. I did, is having have the people in your life have an experience of being known and being honored. I think that that's extremely important. People who experience you as you knowing them and honoring them, and by the way, you don't have to go over to the local newspaper guy and go, I know you and honor you. You know, he's probably going to look at you and go, what are you, nuts?
Well, that's probably relief for some people listening.
Absolutely. However, here's what that could look like. What that could look like is, since you've been buying a newspaper from the guy for 7 years and you don't know his name, ask his name. Start to call him his name. Find out if he's married. Find out if he has kids. Start to get related to people. It's all part of a practice of being related. So
you would say that getting related to the world as a whole would help in the context of a relationship?
Anyway, relationships are relationships. You know, again, it goes back to, you know, you're not one way with certain people and you know, different. I would assert that very often there's a theme, there's a thread running through it. And, you know, so I think, and the more we practice something, the more skillful we become at. You know, I'm just going to make a blanket statement, but I suggest that there are any skill, some of us start out being really good at things, and we're lucky. But there are other things we're not really good at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take practice. And being in relationship is not something that human beings are necessarily, you know, like great at. So it does.
That's definitely one thing that I was talking with DeBraff, another guest I had recently too. It's just we're not really trained how to be in a relationship. I mean, we are trained, but we're not really trained. It's more,
or even more so, we're badly trained.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I mean. It's like we're incidentally trained, and we're trained in a way that doesn't really work, but because we don't see anything else, we don't know anything else, and don't really know what else we can do. And I think there's something to be said for not assuming that we know how to be in a relationship.